We're going to go over primary trig ratios. So you guys know them as what? Anyone remember?
You gotta be realistic.
That's right. Sohcahtoa is usually what you guys call it. Okay. Now that stands for the sine ratio is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So we're going to write them out. I'm actually going to get rid of this triangle here. It's not needed. Okay. So make sure you guys have these memorized. You're going to have to know them when we write our quiz next week. And you also have to know them for your quiz tonight. So the sine ratio, sine, and now this is a little different than you guys are used to. This symbol here is called theta. It represents an angle. Okay, it's just a symbol for an unknown thing. But when we write it this way, we know we're looking for an angle. So sine of some angle is equal to the opposite over hypotenuse. So you guys should be very familiar with this because we went over it not too long ago. Cos theta, A stands for the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And finally, tangent theta, again the angle, is equal to the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. Okay. So these ratios should be really familiar. We've gone over them before. What we're going to do is use them to actually solve sides of a triangle. So let's say that this angle here is 60 degrees. Side note, that's very important. I can only use these ratios with what type of triangle? That's right, it has to be a right angle triangle. If it's not a right angle triangle, we cannot use these ratios. Very important, because later in this chapter, we're going to get into triangles that aren't right angle. So you guys have to keep that in mind when solving this stuff. Okay? So let's say we have that angle is 60 degrees, and the length of this is 225 feet. Let's say. Okay? We'll say that we're measuring a building. We're measuring some building here, and we want to know the height of this building. What we're going to have to do is talk about what information in the triangle we have. Now, when we talk about theta in all of these ratios, we're talking about a known angle, hopefully. Okay? So the information we have is I have this angle here, which is 60 degrees. Okay? I'm going to try to set up all three of them, and then from there we'll be able to figure out which one will actually help us solve. Okay? So sine 60 degrees is equal to what side is opposite of 60? The h, that's right. That's our unknown side. So we're going to have h divided by, and hypotenuse. What is the length or variable for hypotenuse? That's right, 225. So we've set up sine, 225. We're going to set up cos 60. Cos 60 degrees is equal to the adjacent side. What's the adjacent side? We're going to call it f. Okay? Divided by what? 225, which is the hypotenuse. And then we're going to set up tangent 60. Tangent 60 is equal to what's the opposite? H, that's right. And what's the adjacent? It's not 225. It's f. Because it's the adjacent side. We're not talking about hypotenuse with tangent. Okay? So when we look at these three ratios, we've been given quite a bit of information. Now, we can tell by the tangent, I have two unknowns. So I don't have enough information to solve this. So it definitely cannot be the tangent ratio. That won't work for what we're doing. Okay? Cos 60, I've been given enough information. Two of the three variables I have numbers for. So I can solve for f, but is the question asking me to solve for f? No, so that's not going to be helpful for what we're doing. The one that will be helpful is sine. They've given us two of the three variables and side h. And side h is what we're looking for. So if you're ever confused on which of the three to use, you can set all three of them up and look for either the variable we're missing or if we even have enough information to solve using one of the other ones. Tangent, we couldn't even solve anything with. Okay? So we're going to work with sine 60. That's going to be the important one. So I'm going to bring that to the forefront. Sine 60 is equal to h divided by 225. Now, this is where our rules before, this is where we did our prerequisite skills. The goal here is to isolate h. We want h to be by itself. So how do I move that 225 to the other side? Somebody said divide, someone said times. Why would we multiply? That's right. This is a division sign here. A fraction stands for division. So in order to move this 225 to the other side, we're going to be multiplying. So we're going to multiply 225 times sine 60. So I'm going to do this one step at a time. We now have 225 multiplied by sine 60 is equal to h. Perfect. H is by itself. The only thing I really have left to do here is type these values into my calculator. So, depending on what type of calculator you have, mine's not the greatest here, but I'm going to start with sine 60, and then I'm going to multiply by 225, all in one step. Hopefully you guys are able to do that in yours also. So mine's a little different, the order. I have to type 60 in first, sine, and that gives me what sine 60 is. Then I'm going to hit multiply by 225, 194.85, we'll say. So 194.8, I think it actually rounds up to 86, would be the height of that building. And what was the measurement in? Anyone remember? It was in feet, that's right. So 194.86 feet is how tall that building is. When you guys do this, I want you guys to round to 2 decimal places. That way we're very accurate when we're doing these types of questions. So we've solved the question, but, you know, we're such curious people. We want to know how to solve f. So there's 2 ways we could solve f. One way would be to use our cos function, right? Because in that cos function, they've given us 2 of the unknowns, and f is our unknown, okay? So if they had originally asked us to solve for side f, then we'd be using this function, and we're going to quickly do that here on the side. Cos 60 equals f divided by 225, and I'm going to zoom in again. How would I move that 225 to the other side? That's right. Just like we had done before, we're going to multiply. Let's scroll down. In order to move that 225, it's the exact same operation as we've done with sine. The only difference is cos 60 is going to give us something quite different as a value. 225 times cos 60. So we've already gone through this one, so I'm going to quickly do it in my calculator. Hopefully you guys are familiar with this process now. So 60 cos 25 times 225, 112.5. So if they asked us for f, we could have done that. Now I'm going to ask you, and I'm not going to actually do it here, but what type of triangle is this? If I'm given the lengths of 2 sides, what other formula could we use? Not sine law. Pythagoras Theorem. That's a very simple one we could use, right? We have the hypotenuse, and then we have another side. That's right. We could have used Pythagoras Theorem, okay? We didn't have to, but as just a side note. If they asked us for the other side, we could have quickly found it using Pythagoras Theorem in this equation.